Relationships. My name is Elkins, and I would like to share with you a story about a hymn and a forest and a program called Liturgical Studies. It's the reason I'm here in the forest, and in fact have been here since 1985. It is the place that I was drawn to because of this commitment to, in fact, explore holy human stuff. But the story I'd like to share has to do with hymns, and a particular hymn that actually was built out of the sounds and the shapes and the structures, both organic and inorganic, that make this place what it is. I had come to study, to do my doctoral work in liturgical studies. And Dr. Bart Thompson, who was dean of the graduate school, had founded this particular doctoral specialization, and it was one of the few in the United States. So I came to study, and in this process, a colleague who came the same year I did, Fred Graham, who was a master organist and has just recently retired from being a faculty member in worship at Emmanuel College in Toronto. He began at the same time. We were in the same class. My interest, holy human stuff, sacramental life. His interest, music and liturgy done in the best and most beautiful patterns possible. So we were coming to an anniversary. It was going to be our 10th anniversary of the founding of the program. And we were charged, Fred and I, by Dr. Thompson, to develop a celebration, an anniversary event to celebrate that we existed. We were a decade old. There was not a great deal of money, and so whatever we planned needed to be very well planned, but on a very, very modest budget. Well, as graduate students with families, Fred and I completely understood that requirement. So when we went through who we wanted to speak and what we wanted to acknowledge and the incredible contributions that the field was receiving from this one very small doctoral program, we both reached the conclusion, of course we had to have a hymn, our very own hymn. So I said to Fred, who's the best hymn writer in English that you know? And he said, Brian Wren. I said, where is he? He said, he's in England. I said, let's get an address. Let's get a phone number. Let's ask him. We could always ask him, even though we know our budget is practically non-existent for a hymn. That was not considered essential for the program. So between the two of us, we made contact. We talked to this wonderful hymn writer who asked us to send pictures of the trees and the buildings and the description of our mission and what kinds of students we wanted to be. And I want to pause at the moment to thank one of our doctoral students, liturgical studies, who is on the other side of this camera. It is in fact Joong Kim, who is studying both homiletics and worship, who is helping to make these moments possible. So we got that program together and we sent him those materials, and he said, well, he usually writes the words. We would have to find someone else to do the two. Well, I finally braved the inevitable and said, could you tell us how much it would cost? We're graduate students, we have a very small program, we have a very limited budget. What is the least you might charge us for a beautiful hymn? And I heard the silence and almost the smile behind it, and he said, $200. But you'll have to find someone to write the tune. And we were overjoyed, except we didn't have $200. We commissioned it on faith. We were going to find that, what seems like a very small amount, but in a budget that doesn't recognize, in some ways, the necessity for hymns and that form of singing faith. It can be slim, as they say, pickings. So we put the event together, we had the speakers, we had the program, we had the space reserved, and we had 4 beautiful verses. No tune yet. Now, Fred was very gifted, and our end result would have been he would have set it to a tune if that's what we needed to do. There was always a backup. There was still the amount of $200, which was my assignment, how to fund it. So we were within 2 weeks of this decades-long, one fabulous 10 years of a doctoral program, when I got a phone call. I had talked to Dr. Thompson in the morning. We had checked in on how well things were doing. He loved the idea of the hymn. And by the afternoon, we had received the news that he had died suddenly. It ended so many dreams and possibilities, even now it's hard to describe. We decided, as an act of faith and as a tribute to the one who had founded this program, that we would have that 10th anniversary. No matter what was going to be in the future, we would have that celebration. And then, as a sign almost that we were in the right, that we had chosen correctly to trust the future, Brian, who we had informed about our loss of the death of Bard Thompson, sent not only 2 more verses, but the tune that had come to him. So when we gathered for that sad and yet hopeful anniversary, we had a hymn. It was yet unpaid for, however, and it was only at the very last that God provided in the most humorous, still to me, of ways. This week during Tipple, there was a fabulous book display in the archives, a collection given to us by Fred Mazer of extraordinary volumes of prayer, books of prayer dating back to the 1500s. And it was that donor, it was Fred Mazer, who in fact solved our dilemma about where a hymn might come from. Because he asked, would there be some place on the program to give his contribution, some word he could say, some gift he could make verbally to honor Dr. Thompson. And I said, we don't have anyone to say grace over our table fellowship. If you would be willing to give us $200 for a hymn, you could say grace. And he was, I remember, startled, and then he smiled, and then he got out his checkbook, and he wrote a check to Brian Wren for $200 for the hymn that has, in fact, now been preserved in this great UCC book, the New Century Hymnal that we use here in Craig Chapel. And it is hymn 564, We Are Not Our Own. So in concluding this, as a way of giving tribute to those who create in music those sounds of faith that keep us strong for the future, in honor of Dr. Thompson, Bard Thompson, and Fred Mazer, and in thanks to Brian Wren and my colleague Fred Graham, I'd like to read just a few verses of this hymn that says at the bottom, it was commissioned for the 10th anniversary of liturgical studies programs of Drew University, New Jersey in 1987. And now you know what only Fred Mazer and I know, that all it took was $200 and saying grace. We are not our own. Earth forms us, human leaves on nature's growing vine, fruit of many generations and seeds of life divine. We are not alone. Earth names us, past and present, peoples near and far, family and friends and strangers show us who we are. Through a human life, God finds us, dying, living. Love is fully known, and in bread and wine reminds us we are not our own. And now I'll read the 5th verse that came after we learned that we had lost our teacher. And if love's encounters lead us on a way uncertain and unknown, all the saints with prayer surround us. We are not alone. And to that I say, thanks be to God.